There once lived a man named Chief Asaka, a name that rumbled through the valleys like thunder before a storm. If word had a body, it would have worn Asaka's wrappers. If power had a voice, it would have spoken with Asaka's tongues. Chief Asaka was not just rich, he was unreasonably rich. His estate spanned 3 east, deep into 2 river banks, and touched the edge of the King's Road. He owned lands where palm trees danced like soldiers in formation, and cocoa trees whispered secrets to the wind. His barn overflowed with kola nut. His oil drums gleamed like gold in the sun, and his name opened more doors than the king's own seal. He had 20 wives, each living in their own compound, with their own attendants, and more than 40 children, sons with bright eyes and sharp minds, daughters with voices like river songs. His over 100 slaves labor from dawn till the moon yawned, tapping, plucking, drying, pounding, turning soil into silver. But while his word brought admiration, it was his temper that made him a legend. Chief Asaka's anger was not normal. It was not ordinary. It was a creature with his own heartbeat. He shouted even when whispering. He threw stools when correcting. He slapped walls, kicked pots, and unchained the messenger into the forest because the young man brought him warm water instead of cool palm wine. Is this how your mother served your father? You bring me lukewarm bathwater in harmattan. You want to cook me alive like yam? Get out of my sight before I boil you. The villagers fear his wrath more than they fear smallpox. When the servant accidentally broke calabash during a naming ceremony, Asaka stood, looked at the boy with fire in his eye, and shouted, "Do you think I pluck money from the god's armpit? Flog him until the calabash resurrect. And when it does, break it again so I can flog him twice." The laughter that followed was nervous, like the kind you laugh when your life depends on it. No one dared challenge him. Not his wives, not even the village council. In fact, the last elder who tried to advise Chief Asaka during a land dispute ended up with his beard shaved and fed to goats. Since then, no one offered advice, only applause. In the compound, the atmosphere always tense, like a drum pulled too tight. His wife walked gently, their ankles barely making a sound. His children learned to read the weather of his face. When his eyebrows lifted, they disappeared. When he frowned, they became statues. Yet, despite this, his compound was full of life. Every evening, drums echoed through the trees, musicians played, dancers twirled. Visitors came from far and wide to seek his blessing or taste his hospitality. There was never a shortage of pepper soup, laughter, or praise singers chanting, "Asaka, the lion of Omosoro, Asaka, whose anger crack rocks, Asaka, who sneeze and it rains cowries." But behind those praises was a quiet fear. Behind the laughter, an invisible shaking. People stayed close to Asaka, not because they loved him, but because he fed them, paid them, owned them. And above all, because they feared what he might do if they didn't. He had everything a man could want: land, respect, gold, women, children. But peace was not part of it. His house was built on trembling smiles, and his word held together by fear and wet. Little did he know, the same fire that had built his empire was the fairy fire that would one day burn it to the ground. One hot afternoon, when the sun leaned lazily over the tree tops and the scent of roasted yam danced in the air, three strangers arrived at Chief Asaka's grand compound. Their clothes shimmered like the wings of beetles, stitched from fabrics no tailor in the village had ever seen. Their shoes shone like polished obsidian. They were not ordinary traders. No, these men looked like wet itself, as saint ambassadors. They bowed deeply before the chief, one hand on chest, the other offering kola nut wrapped in velvet. Great Chief Asaka, the leader said with a voice that could butter yam, we have heard of your vast plantations, your cocoa that smells sweeter than honey, your palm oil redder than sunrise. We are not small men, sir. We come from the city and beyond. We have buyers in Lagos, in Gold Coast, even in the lands of the white men. We want to do business, serious business. Asaka's eye lit up like a lantern soaked in palm wine. He leaned forward on his calf stool, stroking his beaded staff. Talk, my hairs are not borrowed. They are the hairs of a man who owns the hills. The trader explained their offer. They wanted to purchase the entire harvest, cocoa, kola nut, palm oil, all of it, up front, and promised to pay in full right there and then. They brought samples of foreign coin, even held out a glittering chain and claimed it came from a Portuguese captain as a down payment for the goods they would export. Chief Asaka laughter boomed through the compound. You see it now? You see why I don't listen to people in rags pretending to be wise? All of you, even my wives, always whispering, don't spend too much, don't trust strangers. But look at my life now. Fortune walks into my compound without me lifting a toe. He clapped his hand with such force a clay pot cracked on the kitchen shelf. A goat nearby gave a confused bleat and keeled over sideways. He summoned his servant, ordered palm wine for the guest, roasted meat from the fattest goat, and called for drummers. The deal to him was already sealed, but in the shadows, one man was not smiling. His third son, Odogwu, a quiet young man with eyes that studied more than they spoke, stood behind the pillars. Odogwu had spent time learning from an old traveling scribe who taught him mathematics, trade routes, and the politics of market. His fingers were always ink-stained, his mind always ticking. That afternoon, he stepped forward courteously and greeted his father. Papa, may I speak? Chief Asaka waved his hand distractedly. If you must, but speak quickly. My ears are celebrating already. I have been watching the traders, Odogwu said. Voice steady but low. Something feels wrong. Chief Asaka paused. He squinted. Wrong? How? Odogwu took a breath. They said they came from Ayilala village, but Ayilala doesn't have a market square. They spoke of passing through River Ankung, but that river dried up last season. And they mentioned a chief I know passed away last year, yet claimed to have dined with him. The other wives and children shifted nervously. Also, Odogwu added, they promised full payment without paperwork or witnesses. No contract, no palm print, no cowrie exchange yet. Is that not strange, Papa? Even local traders don't do business that way. There was a brief silence. Asaka nostril flared like below. He stood up, towering over Odogwu. Are you now my advisor? You who still lives off my yam and oil. A boy with nothing but dry hands and sharp word. Want to teach me how to do business? Even your mother cannot speak about my money. And you dare? He turned to the traders and laughed heartily. Forgive him. He reads too many books. And now he thinks he's wiser than me. Don't mind this one. is only good at canting cola, not planting it. The trader smiled politely, their eyes gleaming with quiet mischief. That night, drums sounded in celebration of the great deal. The warehouses were opened, and Chief Asaka gave away his harvest, sacks upon sacks of cocoa, drums of palm oil, baskets of kola nuts, loaded into the trader's wagon, which rolled away into the night. Asaka waved proudly as they vanished to the forest path, still holding a goblet of wine in one hand. Now you will see how empires are built by men who take risks, not by boys who tremble at shadows. But only the moon bore witness to how wide a fool smiles before he falls. Days turned into weeks. The traders, the smooth-talking men with the golden shoe, had vanished like smoke in the Harmattan breeze. No message, no coin, no sign of return. Chief Asaka at first laughed it off. They are big men, beast men. Maybe they are confirming shipment, or perhaps the white men delayed them with paperwork. Patience is what brings palm oil from the press. He puffed his pipe, sipped palm wine, and whiffed off the whisper from his companion. But as the second week passed, then a third, even the bravest servant began to shift their eyes and lower their voices. Whisper turned into worry turned into tension, and tension turned into trembling. Then one early morning, a local merchant, a maker, a cloth trader, arrived in a hurry, his face tied with fear. Chief Asaka, he said, kneeling quickly, I just returned from the border town. I saw those same men who came to buy your harvest. But, Chief, they were not merchants. They are known swindlers. One of them unsold bag of ash as flour to the traders in Ibadan. Another was chased from Onisha for poisoning a customer's palm wine. These are criminals, Chief. They will not return. The color drained from Asaka's face. At first, he just stared. He said nothing. Then, like a storm building behind mountain cloud, his expression hardened. He grabbed his staff and slammed it on the ground with such force that a mirror cracked across the compound. He turned, and his eyes fell upon Odogwu, the son who won him. And what did Asaka do? He roared, You brought this misfortune upon me. The compound froze, even the birds went silent. You knew these people were thieves, and yet you let them walk free. You pretended to warn me, but in truth, you are part of their plan. You are a traitor. Odogwu, you connive with them to shame me. Who eyes widened in disbelief. Papa, what are you saying? I tried to stop you. You call me foolish. Shut up, Asaka below. Guards, lock him up. Let him rot in the goat shed until he produces the thieves. Two servants, trembling like plantain leaves in a storm, hesitated. But Asaka raised his hand high. Do it or join him in chains. Odogwu was seized, banned, and thrown into a dark, damp sand meat for storing yams. From that day, Chief Asaka slipped further into madness. One by one, his wives came to plead for their son. His first wife, the mother of Odogwu, knelt beside his stool. My husband, he is your blood. Let him go. He only wanted to help. You, Asaka roared, you who bet the serpent in my house shall join him. She was thrown into another hut and chained. The second wife begged, and she was imprisoned. The third cried, and she was slapped. In a matter of 4 days, 6 wives, 3 uncles, and even a village herbalist were all locked up. Not for crime, but for the audacity to speak sense to madness. The compound that once echoed with music and feasting now groaned under the weight of silence and fear. Even the slaves began to run away in the night. And Asaka, he no longer bathed, he no longer changed his wrappers. He placed his palace like a lion with a wounded paw, snarling at air, swearing oaths against shadow, clutching his staff like it could protect him from shame. But when shame, untasted, wrought a man's pride faster than firewood in rain. With all his goods gone, with servants fleeing and full scarce, Asaka began selling off what remained. First, his horses, then his drums of oil, then his wife's jewelry one by one. I will find them, he said through gritted teeth, even if it cost me the sky. He refused every suggestion to start again. Traders offered to partner with him. Chiefs offered small loans. His own brother sent word, "Come to the city, brother. Let us rebuild your trade." Asaka spat on the ground. Puh! Rebuild? I'm not a boy chasing goats. I do not rebuild. I strike. I will find those rats and skin them with my bare hands. And then came the final madness. Weeks bled into months. The compound that once thundered with drums and dancing became a ghost palace. Dust gathered on stools that once hosted kings. The feasting tray were now feeding goats. Most of the slaves had fled in the night, leaving behind only broken tools and palm fronds used as pillows. But Chief Asaka, oh, he remained. His beard was wide, his eyes red rimmed and hollow. His wrappers hung loose from weight he had lost, but his anger had only grown fatter. In a last act of desperation, he sold off his finest plot of land, the ones on the eastern hill, where cocoa trees stood tall and proud like village elders. Then he sold his slaves, then his remaining drums of palm oil, and finally, the roofing iron from one of his wife's compounds. All the money, every last coin, was put toward tracking the 3 fraudsters who had vanished with his 16th harvest. He hired messengers to spread word in every village. He sent informers into market from Ijebu to Onisha, paying them richly for even the smallest whisper. And then one night, a messenger arrived, panting, bruised, his wrapper torn from a market scuffle. "Chief, I have seen them in Agboyitan. Chief, I have seen them in Agboyitan. They are there. One of them is building a new house. They call themselves new traders, but their faces, I swear on my ancestors, they are the ones." Asaka didn't even sleep that night. He barked order like a mad war chief, but there was no one left to obey. No warriors, no guards, no slaves. He had sold or chased away everyone who once served him. His eldest son, who had returned from a neighboring town, begged him, "Father, don't go alone. These people are dangerous. Let me go to the village chief and raise men." "No," Asaka roared. His voice cracked and hoarse. "If I want something done, I do it myself. I was born with my fist, not behind cowards." He took the last of his money, gold, silver, cowries, and foreign coins, and strapped them into a goatskin pouch under his clothes. Then, under the cover of early morning fog, Chief Asaka rode out alone on a skinny, tired horse toward Agboyi to hunt thief with rage as his weapon. The town of Agboyi was loud with trade and dust. Hawkers shouted over each other, goats bleated from behind stores, and drums pounded in a distant shrine. But amid all the noise, there came a storm no one expected. Chief Asaka stepped into that market square like a lion with nothing left to lose. He was no longer dressed in royal clothes, no beads, no feather crown, just a simple wrapper tied tight across his chest, a hunting dagger, a short spear, and his ancestral staff tied to his back. His eyes had lost their warmth, but gained a terrible clarity, the eyes of a man who had borne his past and carried only vengeance in his heart. He spotted them, the 3 original fraudsters, now seated at a corner palm wine bar, surrounded by 7 new companions, armed men with cold eyes and scared bodies. But Asaka didn't flinch. He moved slowly across the square, pushing through the crowd. His hands were trembling, not from fear, but from rage carefully caged for too long. He stood just 10 paces away and roared, "You who stole my harvest, you who scatter my home, I have come for what is mine." The market froze, every eye turned. The leader of the thieves, Okpala, leaned back and smiled lazily. "This again? You follow us here, old man, with no army, no guards." Asaka stepped forward, unstrapping his spear. "My hands are my guards, my God are my witness. My blood is already in the earth. It's only a matter of how much more I spill before I join my ancestor." One of the younger thugs laughed and drew a cutlass. "Kill him and throw his bone to the pigs." But before he could launch, Asaka struck first. His spear whistled through the air and buried itself in the body's chest. The market erupted into chaos. The other thugs leaped to their feet, but Asaka was already moving. Despite his age, his arm swung with the precision of a man who had fought many wars in his youth. The second thug rushed forward with a club. Asaka sidestepped, grabbed the man's wrist, and snapped it against the edge of a table. The thug screamed, and Asaka drove his elbow into the man's throat. The thug tried to tackle him from behind. Asaka spun, drove his dagger into the man's rib, and kicked him into the fire pit, where Fender's cook sneezed. 3 down, the remaining attackers hesitated. "He's alone," Okpala shouted. "It's just one man. Kill him." They rushed him. 4 men, 2 with machetes, 1 with a spear, 1 with a club. The crowd screamed and scattered, but some stayed, peeking from behind stores, watching what no one would believe unless they saw it themselves. The remaining 2 came from both sides. He blocked one spear with his staff, but the other's club slammed into his shoulder, cracking bone. He roared in pain, but kicked the spearman into the stomach, broke the club's man's leg with his sweep, and struck both with the blunt end of his ancestral staff, breaking the staff in the process. Asaka now stood, bleeding from 5 places, gasping, body shaking but alive. 6 men were dead. 1 was crawling away. Only Okpala, the original fraud leader, remained with one last loyal bodyguard, both wide-eyed open with disbelief. "You killed them?" Okpala muttered. "You mad stubborn dog." "And I'm not done," Asaka hissed, blood dripping from his chin. But Asaka's leg betrayed him. His knee gave way. He stumbled. His shoulder bled heavily. His vision blurred. That hesitation, that single breath of weakness, was all Okpala's last guard needed. He came from behind, slammed the butt of a rifle into the back of Asaka's skull. The chief fell to his knee. Okpala stepped forward, painting his face twisted in hate and fear. "You should have stayed in your compound and died quietly." Asaka lifted his eyes. "Better to die standing than leave a coward under thieves." Okpala grew and drove a cutlass deep into Asaka's side. The great lion of Omusoro finally fell, face first into the dust of a strange town, surrounded by blood, some east, most not. His body was buried in silence under the market fig tree, without rites, without song, without a name. But the story did not die. Word spread from Agboyi to Omusoro and beyond. Chief Asaka died like a lion, but lost everything to the fire in his chest. Odogwu, eventually released from the shed, inherited nothing but ashes and broken walls. And so, Asaka's story became a tale told by firelight. The reward of anger is destruction. Thank you. See you next time.